of you who have played a visual novel, which is probably everyone who's watching this series, you understand the importance of sound effects as well as music in there. In fact, it's pretty much just as important as the visual aspect, because if you don't have sounds, then basically all you have is a moving picture book. So today we're going to cover adding sound effects and music into our visual novel, which is really simple. In our scripts in Core, we're going to make a new script called, I'm going to call it Audio Manager. Okay, now Audio Manager is going to be pretty famous with the other classes, so we're going to want a static instance so all of them can access it. Public static Audio Manager instance. And of course, assign that through await, so that way it's done before any of the start functions are called. However, we're going to do this one a little different, because the Audio Manager, we want it to run all the time, even through scene transitions. So when we load different scenes, we still want the Audio Manager to move from one scene to the next. And why do we want that? Simply because if you're playing a song, like if you have the main menu song and then you're loading a level, maybe you want that song to continue and fade out as the first words are appearing in the first chapter. If you want any sort of sound effect or music to carry from one scene to the other, then we don't want to use a different Audio Manager per scene, because then we'd be removing the audio sources attached to it and we'd be stopping the sounds very abruptly. Instead, I want them to continue, so Unity has a very neat feature that allows us to do that called Do Not Destroy on Load. And what it does is it places whatever object you specify into a certain portion of the scene, then that scene carries over into the new ones. Anything in the previous scene that you're transitioning from is removed, but whatever is in that Do Not Destroy scene or layer still stays throughout our transitions. So what we're going to do in order to make that happen, first of all, if we already have an Audio Manager from one scene, we don't want to have two of them. We don't want to make a new instance. So we'll only assign this if instance is null. So if there is no Audio Manager, then we're going to make this the active instance. Instance equals this. However, if there is one, then we want to destroy this. Make sure we only have one Audio Manager. Destroy immediate game object. And once we've defined this as the active Audio Manager, we're going to want to say Do Not Destroy on Load. That's simply how we call it. And then we'll just pass in this game object. So now our Audio Manager can move from scene to scene and will not be destroyed. The first thing we're going to focus on is sound effects. I'll just say play SFX for sound effect. Going to pass in the audio clip, which is going to be the effect. And I'll give some additional optional parameters for both the volume, set the default as full, and also the pitch. By default, they will both be set at 1. Now, it'd be easy if we just had one audio source attached to the manager that would play any sound effect. So we could just call audiosource.play1shot, use the effect, but that won't work if we're setting different volumes and pitches for sound effects that may be overlapping each other. Because if we do that, then it's going to affect the volume and pitch of every sound effect using that audio source. So we want to create a new one per each effect. So we're going to create an audio source return called create new source. And this is just going to take a name that I want to give it. So I want to identify between music and sound effects. That's just me. String underscore name. That way it doesn't interfere with the actual name variable that's already defined for game objects. And so we will say audio source new source equals new game object. Give it the name that we pass in. Dot add component. This game object is going to have nothing on it except for a transform component. We want to add an audio source, and now we have our new source. And what I want to do to keep it clean is make sure that any new source I create is automatically parented to the active instance. So new source.transform.setParent instance.transform, and then just return the new source. So in Play SFX, we need a new sound effect, even if we have one of the same clip. We don't care. We want to make a new one. So then audio source equals create new source, and I want to make this name in the format of sound effect followed by the name of the clip, which will be effect.name. Alright, that gives us our new source, but now I need to assign the actual clip, which is going to be effect. So clip equals effect, and here comes the volume and the pitch. And we want to make sure that we play it with source.play. Now I want this thing to destroy itself automatically, so I will just say destroy, source.gameObject after the effect.length. So essentially, once it's done playing, then it's going to automatically destroy itself. So to make this work, I need a audio manager or an object to become that manager. I'm just going to make it a child of the core and call it the manager. So whenever we enter any scene, since this is going to have our audio script on it, it's going to first check if there's one already existing, and if there is, then it's going to delete itself and just keep the current active instance. There's our manager, tester, bring in audio testing. Make sure volume and pitch are 1, but now we need some clips. Alright, so what we have here are 5 sound effects, and I will post these as a link in the description so you guys can download those. So I'm just going to import these into Unity. I'm going to put these in the resources folder, make a new subfolder called audio. And since these are sound effects, I'll do another subfolder for SFX. And while I'm at it, I'll go ahead and make the directory for music. So I'll just drag these in, and Unity will import them. Alright, so here we are, and let's now go into my testing script. Disable character and layer testing, just so we don't have anything unexpected happen. And move these clips inside here so we can just select them randomly. Alright, so now we are, and press space. That should play a random sound effect. There we go. Sounds like it's working to me. Let me minimize that window. Here we are, and let's take a look at that audio manager. Has no children, so every sound that it generates a new sound. And as they finish, they're deleted. Well, that's a long explosion. There we go, they're deleted. So now we have sound effects, let's move on to music. Okay, now music is going to be fairly similar to how we handled the sound effects. We're of course going to create a new source, name it accordingly, and set the effect volume and all of that, but we're going to do it a little bit different because there are some additional features we want to add in there. So right underneath play sound effects, let's make a new public void called play song. What this is going to take is of course an audio clip for the song we want to play, and a float, but this is not going to be volume, this is going to be called max volume. Because the song is going to start out at 0 regardless of what we want the volume to be. It needs to transition in, unless we have an instant transition, which will just control that through speed. but the max volume is going to determine whether it's the one value that it fades into or something lower. And whatever it is, it can't go beyond that point. It's the max volume. So we have that. And pitch. Pitch is set immediately. There's no transition in that, so it won't be max pitch. So it won't be max pitch. I'm going to set that as a default of 1. Again, with the volume. And I'll have a float for starting volume. Maybe I want this to start at full strength, but in most cases I won't. I'll want it to transition in, so starting volume would be 0. And one more boolean called play on start. Do we want this to start automatically, or do we want to start it ourselves? Which means I may want to have a song return, which brings me to the next thing that we're going to make here. Our songs are not just going to be audio sources that we're going to be returning. They're going to be song variables, so we need to create that in just a second. Play on start. By default, I'll make that true. Alright, now underneath everything, this is where I like to define my classes. Since I want to be able to view this possibly in the editor, I'm just going to make it serializable and call it, it's going to be a class called song. So play song is going to return the song variable. Now before I go any further, let me just say why we're making this song variable. Why is it important for us to do that rather than just having audio clips like we did with sound effects? First off, sound effects are just play and forget. They're there, they're doing their thing, we don't care anymore about them. A song is a little different, however. We may want to pause a song, play a song, resume it, stop it, and of course we can do all of that with an audio source. But here we have max volume, and we have several other variables that'll be controlled here, but if we have max volume, how do we relate that to an audio source without keeping a list or a dictionary relating each song to a certain float called max volume? It's a lot easier just to store them all in one thing and access them directly, so we know each song's individual values and individual targets. So the first thing we want for the song is the clip that's going to play it, but that clip is going to be assigned to the audio source, so we'll have public audio source. Source, what source is playing this song? And what is the max volume that we want to achieve for this? Now if I want to create a new song and have all of its variables already defined in like one line or something, then I need to make an initialization call inside of this class, which is exactly what we're going to do here. Say public song. So if we want to create a new song, what is something that we want to pass in? We want to know what we want to play, what music is going to play. So we'll have an audio clip parameter called clip. And you know it, max volume is going to be passed in. We want our pitch to be passed in, starting volume. Everything pretty much that we're passing into play song up there is what we're passing in here. Boolean play on start. And now let's go ahead and create it. So instead of creating this inside of play song, we're going to create it when we create a new song. So our source will be create or audio manager dot, let's say, okay, so we can access this inside of a class. Let's make create new source static. That also means that new source, we need to make sure that it's parented to the instance.transform, which it is. Alright, so that's good. Alright, so now we can say source equals audio manager dot create new source. And the format of the name this time is going to be song, followed by the name of the song inside of brackets. Okay, now we just want to assign our variables. Make sure the clip is equal to the clip that we want to play. And source.volume equals starting volume. Max volume equals, just to identify that, I'll make max volume underscored. So max volume equals variable max volume. and source.pitch equals whatever pitch we passed in. And lastly, if play on start, then source.play. And while we're at it, it may be useful to know whether we want to loop this or not. Most cases we will, so loop will just be true by default. And we'll say Boolean loop. And up here, source.loop equals loop. Alright, so that's great. And of course, since we're handling transitions, we want to incorporate a list to know what songs are currently playing at this time. This will probably be one of the last things we transition, so we're about done with all of that. We're not going to handle this through global functions, we're going to do this locally, so list of songs, all songs, equals new list. I want that to be public. I don't need to see it though, so hide it in Inspector. I won't do that until I'm done editing this. But there we go, so all songs, and I want to make sure that the Audio Manager updates its list, so audiomanager.instance.allSongs. Since there's only one Audio Manager, I think all songs can be static. Simplify things a little bit, and then I don't even have to hide it from the inspector, because it will be hidden, as long as it's static. So audiomanager.allSongs.add this, the newly created song. Alright, now if I want to control the volume of a song, let's go ahead and make some retrieval and setting variables here. Public float volume inside of curly brackets. Get, if we want to get the value, then we're going to return source.volume. If we want to set the value, then we're going to say source.volume equals value, whereas value equals whatever we're passing in. And let's do the same thing for pitch. Alright, and now instead of saying source.play or anything where I have to go inside of the song and access it, we're going to make those functions available directly from the song. And lastly, when we destroy the song, we can't just destroy it because we have to remove it from the list first. So audiomanager.allSongs.remove this, and now we can destroy it. Source.gameObject, and we'll just set it to be destroyed on the next frame. Scratch that, we'll set it to be destroyed immediately. Alright, cool. There is our song. So in play song, we're going to need to run a check to make sure we have the song that's trying to be played. If we do, that needs to be the active song. But before we do that, we need to set the active song variable. Public static song, active song. We'll make it equal to null. And when we handle transitions, we'll want a float for song transition speed, which by default is about 2, and a boolean for song smooth transitions equals true. Alright, so now we're ready to do this. So play song, if we're not trying to play nothing, if we do try to play nothing, then we're going to stop all songs, but if we're not, which means song has to not be null, then we're going to check all of our songs that are currently playing. If there is one that plays this target song, we make it the active. So let's run that incremental loop for int I equals 0, while I is less than all songs dot count I plus plus. S equals all songs I if this song's clip. Okay, let me just come down here right beneath source, public, audio clip, make that retrieval, return source.clip. Otherwise, if for some reason I want to set it from here, I'll do the same thing, source.clip equals value. So then if this song's clip is equal to the song we want to play, then active song equals this song and break. If the song is null that we want to play, so else, then active song just becomes null. Alright, so at this point in the script, if we do have a song that's currently playing the target, then we'll know it. If active song equals null, or active song.clip is not equal to the song we want to play, then we need to make a new song. Active song equals new song, and we'll be passing in all of these variables. So song as the clip, max volume, pitch, starting volume, play on start, and loop. So we create the new one only if these conditions are present. So now we know that we have the song that needs to be played, or we have nothing, which means cancel everything out. So now we need to begin the transition, and we'll do that first of all by stopping any coroutine that's currently running in this behavior. Do that through stop all coroutines, because of course it's going to be handled through a coroutine. And then we'll just say start coroutine, and I'm going to call it volume leveling. Hasn't been created yet, so let's do that right now. IEnumerator, volume leveling. And we really don't need to pass in anything for this, because everything that it needs to know is already known in those variables up above, the active song and the all songs list, as well as the speed and the smooth type. So we need to create, rather than using global functions like we've done for the past few transitions, we need to handle it here locally. So boolean So while we transition songs, while that is occurring, we're going to yield return new wait for end of frame. And to do this a little easier, I'm going back to global functions just to copy all of the contents within the transition images function. I'll copy that, take it over to Audio Manager, and paste it within transition songs. Now all of these variables are going to be a little jacked up. So speed, we don't want to mess with the actual speed, so this is going to be a new variable that we're going to create. Float speed equals song transition speed times time.delta time. We don't have all images, we have all songs. And replace that one there. Make sure we have the image as the song. Place any occurrence of it there. If song equals active song, then we want to transition it in. So if song.volume is less than, here's where we use max volume. Song, as long as it's less than max volume, it needs to move up. So then song.volume, song.volume equals, if we are not setting any alpha, what we need to do is see if we're smoothing or not. So song smooth transitions, if we do, mathf.lerp from the song.volume to song.maxVolume by the speed. Otherwise we move towards, again replacing this with song.volume and song.maxVolume at speed. And that is looking funky because I still have this closed parentheses there from the set alpha function. So let's make sure that's good, and we should have the colors appear on these words as it should be, which means everything's alright. So let's go ahead and save that. And if I remember correctly, play song did not return anything. No, it did not. Alright, so what we want to do is we don't need to return anything because play song will have the active song become whatever we're trying to do. So play song does not need to return anything. That's my fault. We'll save there. And then let's go into Unity and try this out after we apply this in our testing script. And Unity is saying that we have one error. Transition songs, not all code paths return a value. Transition songs, because we're not returning any value changed. Underneath the last bracket, return any value changed. And now it's given us the nice clean screen. Inside of tester, now I just need to add our music, which we do not have at the moment. Okay, here we are. We've got 4 music files. Due to copyright reasons, I can't use anyone else's music, so I'm having to use my own here. I'm just going to import these 4 into Unity, and we're going to hear them play. And audio files, big ones, always take a little while, so let's wait for these to import, and I'll be right back. Audio testing, music. Gonna grab all 4 of these, and come to the tester, lock it down, grab all 4 of them, and drag them into music. So now we're ready to test out our music. Okay, so that's with the key of Ilm, and let's try. Well, I just realized that sounded like we're going to be playing in the key of Ilm, which would make absolutely no sense, but here we are. Key code Ilm. Let's hear the music. Alright, there we go. And we heard that fade in. Let me turn that volume down just a little bit so you guys can still hear my voice. So, song, other level, now playing. Yeah, that's a very nice name. Key code Ilm, which Audio Manager should now transition it out. That was pretty quick. I'm going to slow it down just a little bit. So now Ilm. Alright, fading out to a different song. Big field's now taking center mic. Other level should be fading out. That volume's steadily going down. And yes, because we're lerping using smooth transitions, it is taking a very long time to hit 0. But once it does, you see I forced 0, it is now destroyed. So hit Ilm again, different song. Let's go ahead and get rid of smooth transitions, and we see it disappeared pretty quickly. So there we are. You see, smooth, non-smooth still sounds pretty good. So I would actually recommend using that for music. So we have music and sound effects that are all working. Now, I'm going to let you guys know one thing. This Audio Manager is about 99% finished. We're not going to take care of the rest today. It's just a very small thing. But one more thing that I do want to add to that is when you have a certain song that you want to play, and it's only going to play maybe this small bit at the very beginning, and then it's going to loop the rest. So what we would actually have is an intro part and a looping main piece, and that's called a multi-part song. So the Audio Manager, when we come back to it, is we're going to add that functionality to have a multi-part song play. So like you hear in, for anyone who's familiar with Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, you have a certain intro piece that plays, and then it just loops the main melody. And you don't hear that part again until you exit and come back to that level again and start the song all over. So that's a multi-part song. We'll be adding that in, but it's not a huge priority, so we're not going to do it right now. So the next episode, I believe, is text tags and adaptive font size. I'll see you guys then, and have a great day.